All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Professional Volunteer Podcast. And I am very excited to have Brooke Ames back today. Brooke joined us a few episodes ago for our first YouTube live event. And if you don't know Brooke, she is found on Instagram as Misfit Hose Dragger. So Brooke, AKA Misfit Hose Dragger. Welcome to the show, Brooke. Thanks for coming on again.
Thanks for having me, Chief.
So you and I've been following you for a while now. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. Typically you've done a bunch of different podcasts where you primarily focus on your journey from the corporate world to the firefighter world.
Right?
And we're gonna dive into that a little bit, but we're not gonna solely focus on that today, because you have done that story on a lot of other podcasts, and I'm not afraid to say, hey, go jump over to Jeremy at Crew First Culture and listen to his podcast he did. You were on Brotherhood Academy Radio, I know, from the Fools event, and you've touched on that story a lot. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, but we've got a lot to talk about today. So why don't you start by introducing yourself and talk about your start, I guess.
Sure. So firefighter, paramedic, Brooke Ames. Consider myself a rookie. Been firefighting for 7.5, 8 years now. Started on the volunteer side. The thing that people are just kind of fascinated with is the journey that I went through. I was 100 pounds heavier, so no taller than I am right now. I'm a little 5 foot tall, drink of water, and 241 pounds back then when I started, and started getting into shape, largely for the fire service. I was on the volunteer side, but wanted to be healthier. From that evolved this idea, this thought, somebody planted a seed in my head about, hey, have you thought about doing this for a living? And then it just kind of snowballed from there. Started losing all the weight, getting in shape, getting fit for duty to pass the CPAT. Then got hired by my career department, and have been there for about 2.5 years. I also have the kind of, odd background in that I came from the corporate world, which right. You don't usually see a crossover like that. I don't know, that's kind of been something different. Certainly a culture shock, that's for sure, good and bad. And it just kind of came over from, I was a volunteer for 5 years out in our rural area in Wisconsin. Volunteer fire departments and emergency services are kind of separated. EMS is one thing, fire is another. Then you went into the career side when I got hired, and those two things operate tandemly. They're together. So just kind of navigating the challenges of that, and kind of came up. It took some time. Spent time, like when I first started, the weight loss thing was huge. I've followed you just because I always see you getting after it. And that's kind of I think that if you're getting active every day, that's exactly what I did. It was a really consistent thing, doing it right. Whether you wanted to or not. It was not like an option. And I see that embodying that, and that gives me hope that, other people think this way. So it's really encouraging to see. So keep doing your thing. Jeremy over at Crew First, you mentioned him, and I did do a podcast with him kind of outlining my journey too. He's doing some great things too, and I like that his is like more training derived, which is awesome. We can never have enough of, and I think he's doing big things over there too. So it strengthens me. It's funny, when I started the whole social media account thing, that didn't start as a project to gain notoriety. It was just more of an outlet and source for me to just be like, this is what I'm doing, and somehow kind of helped ignite other people. And that to me has just kept me, it is a good evolving cycle of you put out content, people find it motivating, that motivates, they come back, they tell me that motivates me. So you refer to me as Misfit Hose Dragger, which, that's my Instagram handle, but that didn't start off as trying to be I know right now in our profession, like the TikTokers and things like that, like that was not my aim with that thing, but it has become this outlet of a way to inspire others more so than motivate, and just, which is semantics, but to me, I think motivation is kind of a fleeting thing where people feel inspired, and that kind of continues a more sustainable process to achieve a goal. So
Sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of the bite size where I started. 100 pounds heavier, lost the weight, got hired, left the corporate world, and here I am fighting fires and paramedic on a city fire department. So
first of all, your transformation is, it's amazing. I've always loved a good transformation. You just posted a picture a little while ago that I had to share. I think it was 10 years apart, right? 23 versus 33. Correct?
Yeah, 22 versus 32.
Okay,
yep,
22
correct.
versus 32. So I'm close.
Don't add another year, please.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. But transformations like that have always inspired me, and I just look at them and I'm like, holy crap. And it's funny, I was at my job today, and one of the guys that I work with has gotten really into fitness and weightlifting and bodybuilding, and he was talking about transformations, and I'm like, oh well, I got to show you something, and I immediately went to my Instagram and I brought up your picture and I brought up somebody else's picture. I was like,
oh my god,
if you want, like, because it's so inspiring. And I've been doing this health and fitness thing for a while for a variety of different reasons, but I never had like that physical transformation. And I tell people that all the time. Like, Brian today, it looks like Brian did in his 20s. I was blessed with good metabolism, even
nice.
when I was eating like crap and not taking care of myself physically, I looked the same.
You were,
right.
Sure.
So, and obviously we're gonna give some plugs here today, but if people aren't following you, they need to, and they need to just go look at that transformation, because it is really, really inspiring for other people to see. And I think that, I know that that's one of the things that I've always enjoyed about putting my story out there is you really don't know who's paying attention, because not everybody is going to DM you or comment on your content. And then all of a sudden somebody that's been following you for years will be like, hey, I just want to let you know, I lost like 30 pounds because I'm watching you,
and like that, this does hit, you're absolutely right. And I am so humbled when that happens. And it happens more than I could ever have imagined would I honestly never thought this thing would take off. Again, it wasn't like my aim. It was just more of like, this is a creative outlet for me to, put things out there. And all of a sudden, there's people that are DMing me, telling me, because of you, I had the courage to go in pursuit of this thing that I wanted to do. And it's like, I'm taken aback, and like also like so thankful that they take the time out to do that. So if you're out there and you're listening and that's part of it, oh my gosh, please tell me. That gives me strength to be like, okay, this is going somewhere good. I always am really, I'm critical and careful about what I post, because I think that our world is so polarized right now that I want it to be a way for people to come together and just encourage each other. As you can call it fluffy, you can call it like, my mindset, but I just think that there's so much negativity out there that whenever I hear those good stories, or you said people DM you and like there's just, hey, because of you, that just strengthens, like, yes, I want to hear that inspires me, Exactly. And the most recent picture that you're referring to, so my journey has kind of taken, as far as the great thing about fitness was I was overweight for majority of my life. Okay, I come from a family that we're big people, and we use food as comfort. We use food as social. I probably didn't have a lot of education as far as like nutritious eating, like eating with a purpose. I'm not also a disclaimer, I'm not a trainer, I'm not a nutritionist. This is just the things common things that I've had to learn.
Yep.
But I probably, spent most of my life not having a healthy relationship with food.
Mm-hmm.
And that was having that realization and having to, you talked about the physical changes. There's such a mental and mindset change that has to take place in order for this to become sustainable. The way I view food now is a lot different than what I would have viewed it 10 years ago in that transformation picture.
Right.
And the way I view activity now is different too. When I started having to get healthy and started with the cardio thing, I could not run between the fence posts on my farm.
Mm-hmm.
And then that just, I kept wanting to go a little bit further every day. And that's what I did. And then in 2017, I ran a marathon. 2016, I ran a marathon. So that was, like the first transformation was I lost all this weight. And then it was like trying to get ready for the CPAT. I began powerlifting. So I gained muscle mass. So then there was like this next transformation where it was like, okay, now I've went from being really leaned out or, just thinner than I was.
Right.
And then putting on, some muscle mass. And now the photo that I shared recently is kind of the next leg of the journey I'm on. Kind of going down more of a powerlifting for me. I love it. I absolutely love lifting heavy. I still love lifting heavy, but sustainability as far as having a career where you utilize your body every day in a physical capacity.
Sure.
I want to protect my joints and I want to have that longevity. So I realized I had to do some different things as far as my daily training, and competition is important for me because I'm a goal-driven person. So I need to have that carrot dangling.
Yep.
So if I'm not, if I don't have something on the horizon, I often get bored and, I don't follow through with things often. So I shifted my training. In October, I started working out with a bodybuilder trainer, which has been an entirely different programming, different way of lifting, different way of eating. And I'm kind of going down that path. So that's kind of the next leg of the journey right now. So
all right,
that's what that pick's all about.
So couple things that I just thought of while you were talking. One thing that I have found is that following people on a similar journey to yourself, like I follow you, you follow me, there's days where, this isn't easy, right? There's days where you don't feel like getting after it at all, like you'd rather sleep late or come home from work and whatever, do something totally different. But one thing that I found is surrounding myself with like-minded people on a similar
accountability.
journey. Right. So if I come home like today, last thing I felt like doing was getting after it, but I scroll my Instagram and I'm like, shit. Well, Brooke got after it. So it's
right.
And one thing that I've noticed about you is that I tend to use motivation and inspiration together a lot, and you kind of draw a line in between those. In between those two. And the first time we spoke, or the first time I listened to you speak, and I heard you draw that line, it kind of some bells kind of went off for me. So tell me what you feel the difference is between motivation, which is used a lot, and inspiration.
That's a good question. And I kind of alluded to it that it's more or less semantics, but it is the whole intent behind it, right?
Right.
For me, that's where I draw the line. My speech that before we were living in the world 2.0 after COVID, I was doing some public speaking, and my speech is the anti-motivational speech. Not a motivational speaker, I'm an anti-motivational speaker, because
right.
I do not believe in motivation, because that is such a fleeting thing. You might feel motivated tomorrow to go run a couple miles. Good. Awesome. That doesn't facilitate change over time. The consistency, the willingness to go do it regardless of motivation, and I will loosely use the term discipline. Yeah. Having that ability to be like, I don't feel motivated, but I'm inspired towards this goal, right? That's the big thing. That's the 50,000 yard view is I have this goal and I'm inspired, and whether I'm motivated to go do it or not, I'm going to go do it. And you're absolutely right. and I don't post every single, oh my God, I don't post every single workout. Otherwise you'd be so bored to be like, okay, really again. And that's what I want to avoid is like,
right,
you know, yeah. Oh, Brooke's in the gym again. Shocker. For me, that's coping mechanism. So it's easier. It becomes easier, but I didn't want to go today. I was tired. I ran 24 hours on the ambulance. I didn't want to go, but I went. I have a program. My trainer laid down a program. I have to lift 5 days this week, and today was going to be the day that I could, so I had to go do it. It's bottom line. There's not a gray area. You just go do it.
and what a lot of people don't understand, you know, it's easy to say, I'm not going to do it. Like, it would have been easy for you to just not go today, right?
Correct.
But it's hard for you to get there. And what I tell people all the time is once you get there and you get immersed and you get it done, you feel so good when it's over.
Right.
It's almost like it's better when it's over.
Oh yeah.
Like that, you know?
And I don't mean to belittle, or I don't know, maybe this is crossing a line. I kind of parallel going to the gym with going to church. I don't want to go on Sunday. It's early. I have other things to do. Sure. I don't want to go, but I feel better after I've been there.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe not church, synagogue, whatever you believe in. You know, it's that thing that you're not super like, oh yeah, you know, like this is, no. It's more like, okay, now that I've went, I feel so much better.
Absolutely.
That's what the gym is for me. So
absolutely. Okay, so let's talk for a few minutes about the volunteer time
sure.
of your journey. Okay, I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that your time in the volunteers did kind of open your eyes to, hey, this is pretty cool. You know, I would think, and maybe this is something I could do as a, well, I don't know, as a career one day. But how did that start? How'd you get involved with the volunteers? You know, is that what kind of helped you lead to your career path?
Absolutely. And you know, I was 25 by the time this even like occurred to me, late in life, so a late bloomer to this. The volunteer fire chief, my husband and I, we own this small farm. We both work full time off the farm. It's a hobby farm. But 25 acres, in a rural community. We moved in, we're not from the area. The volunteer fire chief, this Norwegian community, there's like 200 people in this town. Volunteer fire chief comes to my husband and asks him, you know, do you want to join the volunteer fire department? My husband has uncles that are on volunteer fire departments in other areas, little rural areas, and that sounded like something neat. So he was like, yeah, absolutely. And like the median age on the roster was like 62. I mean, we live in an aging community.
Sure.
And I'm seeing this, and I'm like, this sounds like fun, and they need hands, and they need people to do things. Maybe this is something I want to do too. So I went to the fire chief and I said that I wanted to join, and it was kind of like in disbelief. This is a very traditional area, and this is 2012. This isn't 1958, but
right, yeah.
You know, he did allow me to join, but I was not well received.
What were you, the first female there?
I couldn't say. I can't. I don't have demographics for you because I don't think it's.
Just curious.
I don't think it's well documented, so I can't say that. No, there was never another. I don't know.
Okay.
To be perfectly honest.
Fair enough.
Yep. So I go through and I do entry level firefighter with my husband, and at the time he decided, I'll drive the trucks, but this ain't for me. He didn't like putting on an SCBA, and he's like, hey, you love doing like, and for me, the first time I went into a fire, that was it. That was it. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to sell all of my earthly possessions, and I wanted to fight fires just exclusively because it was, if you've ever been on a hose line for the first time, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
So it was just like, wow, this is it. So I tried to become involved, and that was not well received in my local department.
Sure.
I realized that I could beat my head against the wall trying to make this chief see that I was a contributor, but not ever change his mind, because some days you have to realize a bad investment and cut your losses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I went down the road to the next volunteer fire department, which is still my farm touches the district of this other volunteer fire department.
Okay.
And they were just thrilled. They're like, here's somebody that wants to train. Here's somebody that, is motivated and wants to get up and do things. And they were just happy. They were thrilled to have me. I was great. I loved going down there. I loved training. They put me through my state certifications.
Mm-hmm.
And I started kind of developed this symbiotic relationship with other volunteer departments in the area. So, we all have kind of limited resources because we're small. We don't have a lot of head count, but you have all these little cells of departments all over, right?
Okay.
I started writing grants, and fire chiefs in the area would hear about this, and they would call me up and, hey, we're doing this really, this live training, you want to come down and play, basically play. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And then I would end up writing grants for their department,
That's awesome.
I enjoyed it. I liked technical writing. It was fun. And it kind of gave me more training, which was what I was looking for. I liked, being around it. So from there, I kept getting more and more certifications. I kept going towards the EMS side. I like EMS. I know there's a lot of people that hate on EMS, but I like it. I like it just as much. I'll say it. I like it just as much as fire. It's cool. It's fun for me. And now at a paramedic level, like at least I'm operating at to the highest level of my skill set.
Sure.
So that to me is fun. So I like doing both, and so I was tandemly getting my certifications for all these things. And then I went to a conference in Monroe, Wisconsin. It was the Monroe Fire School at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
Volunteer fire department sent me there. Really cool conference. Had some bigger names that were out there at the time that were training there, because it's like it drew people from everywhere. There was a gentleman. So now keep in mind, at this time I'm still pretty overweight. Had lost a little weight because at that time I went through my state certifications and kind of developed this idea that I didn't want to be the weakest link, which we'll talk more about the link theory in a while. But I started developing this mindset that I didn't want to be the weakest link. So I started getting my act together, really. Mm-hmm. But was still pretty overweight and was at this training, and, I'm sitting by myself at lunch because nobody wants to sit with, the whatever. And this instructor came and sat down at the table with me, and, he talked to me. He was really kind to me, and he's like, and I'm telling him about like my volunteer department and how much I love it and how I just think it's great. And I can't get enough training. And he said to me, he's like, have you ever thought about doing this for a living? And it was like a light bulb went off in my head. That's a thing. Like he's like, well, yeah, he's like telling me about, what you got to do and everything. And so I started, I was just fixated on that. I started looking, that man's name was Aaron Heller of On Scene Training.
Yep.
And he's fantastic. He does lots of great training, and he actually was the one who was able to kind of get me on a platform to speak publicly, and much appreciated. So Aaron he's definitely a catalyst for me, that's for sure. So it hadn't occurred to me, because I'm in this such, molecularized rural area where volunteer departments don't exist. But I started looking. I knew I didn't want to move, so I knew I was limited. So, I kind of went with within an hour radius, and I found a few departments, and I started looking at what their, application requirements were. Mm-hmm. And same thing. I'm on the volunteer side. I'm kind of I'm getting all these technical certifications because there is a need for that in my area, because it's rural with grain rescue. So, I was, kind of acquiring these certificates at the time and starting to look at what it would take, which the big hard line in this area, what I've found, is the CPAT. That's kind of the hard line between going to any volunteer department or any, paid per call or whatever, to going full-time career.
Sure.
And I knew financially, if it wasn't going to be full-time and, career and benefits, that it wasn't worth it to me. I was working a corporate job, good pay, excellent benefits. So I knew I couldn't put the financial burden on my family to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go do this thing part-time. So
right.
I knew I had to commit. It was either all or nothing. So I started doing that. I started training for the CPAT, and that was the big game changer for me. That was the thing that drew the line in the sand. I started applying to departments early, and had applied a couple of times before I got, a job offer. And I got my job offer in 2018 and started working right then. So
that's awesome.
Here I am.
I think I remember you hearing you say that your corporate job at the time, there was some incentive to volunteer. Is that correct?
Yes, you're absolutely right. So Cummins Incorporated is awesome. Like as far as like public responsibility, I don't think that you could find a corporation that is more responsible. Mm-hmm. They have a program called Every Employee, Every Community. And if you're a Cummins employee, you're required to do a minimum of community service hours every year. And now Cummins pay you can be on the clock when you're doing those community service hours. Some people go into the schools and they read in the schools. Some people do highway cleanup, but you have to put in time in the community. So they allowed my husband and my husband works for Cummins as well. We were running with the volunteer rescue squad while we were working. So we would go out on call, like we would have our pagers and call would come in. We would leave work. We'd go on the call. We'd come back to work. And we were compensated for our time because they thought it was a valuable service, because in those areas, all we have are volunteers. Everybody goes to work during the day. There's not, paid services to handle EMS calls. So, and the fire department was they supported the fire department. They had a certain roster of firefighters that were even assembly line workers and welders and everything. So they would, doff all of their welding gear and get their stuff and go on a fire call, because Cummins saw value to it. So I think that is huge, because I can tell you right now, I would not have gotten the experience that I have when I went in, if I weren't able to do that, because, if I were never able to go on calls while I was at work, that's most of your day,
Sure.
8 hours of it at the very least. So I was fortunate that I had that tandem role.
So valuable, when companies are willing to allow people to volunteer in their community and give back, especially on company time. That's
right.
I've always been extremely fortunate with my employer, family owned business. I've been volunteering for 30 years, and there's times where I've left and been like, I don't know if I'm going to be in tomorrow, and have never docked me $1 or asked for a vacation day, or it's great when employers are able to do that and, give back to the community like that. It's so good.
I'm also a little bit of, I'm a math geek. I'm a math geek. I'm like Rain Man with numbers. So I thought it would be interesting. Yeah, I know. I'm such a nerd. And I was at one time I was working as a data analyst at Cummins. When I left there, I was a project manager, but I spent some time in a role as a data analyst. And one of the things I did is I kept a call log, because if you ever need to substantiate your projects,
sure,
it's good to have data backing it, right? I kept a call log and was able to show that 33% of the calls that I went on were right to the plant. So they were having a medical emergency, somewhere in the plant. Right. So here I am able to, justify, not that they would ever ask, but I just thought that was interesting information to have, that, not only was it helping the community, but also helping the company at large. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. So now you're working as a career firefighter, paramedic. All right. And we've talked before about your 451 Link, right?
Yes. Oh, you got one. Great.
I got one right here.
Fantastic.
And we wanted to talk about your vision for the Link, your processes that you use, to apply to the various projects in your life. So
absolutely,
let's dive into that a little bit. And let's talk. First of all, what does the 451 link stand for those that do not know?
Okay. So it's the meaning of the link is a couple of folds here. So I kind of alluded to it before. It's just a symbolic, tangible thing to not be the weakest link. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So on your crew, on your work team, on your work site, wherever you're at in your family, you know, you don't want to be the weakest link. You don't want to be the thing that disrupts that chain. And that, right. When I was doing my state firefighter certifications, I was put with this team of like really alpha young guys that were, I mean, they were built for this. This was what they were going to be doing. And then you have me, this like, you know, mid-20s mom that's overweight. And I'm like, man, I'm the weakest link here. And it was at that time that I had to have that hard, like, okay, no more. This is not going to be the case. So I'm going to set a measurable goal that I'm going to be better tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Just that simple thing on repeat all over every time. And the 451F, 451 degrees Fahrenheit, is the ignition temperature of paper. And any house fire that becomes fully involved starts there. And just like with not being the weakest link, I had to have that catalyst, that realization that that's what I needed to do. I needed that ignition temperature. I needed that point. So whatever that is, just start. And that's the whole concept behind those little carabiner links. Any of your listeners want to send me a DM, want to ask how they can get one, I would be thrilled if everybody listening contacted me and wanted one. I think there's something like 500 of them out there now. I have started a new project of, I was putting them all, they all end up in my, my story on Instagram, but I thought it would be great to have a place where they all existed as a, you know, a whole chain essentially. Yeah. So I started just recently, if you're not following, you know, feel free to run over there and follow it. It's, and I'm not even going to say it correctly. I better go look what it is. It's 451F _ the link. One of those things. It's attached to my Misfit Hose Dragger account, but now I'm trying to retrospectively put all of them there on that wall. So, or, you know, as posts so that people can see, oh, this person in Maine is also doing this. And this person, you know, it's just wherever you end up putting your link. I always ask people to please snap a picture of it for me. Yeah. And I just want a picture representation of all of our strong links doing strong work all over. It's now in all 50 states. It's in something like, I don't know the total number of countries. I want to say like 9 countries. That's awesome. And like 4 continents. So I can't believe, like I started this back in August or September of last year, like actually sending, you know, giving them out and sending them out, not just the concept started back when I was, you know, in firefighter cert 1, state certification 1. But like the whole concept of like putting it on there and like having this physical representation didn't start less than a year ago. So I would be happy. You also get a sticker. The sticker is really cool. I'm just going to little plug here for a good friend of mine. I started spewing these ideas at her. She's a children's book illustrator, Nikki Cooper. I started talking to her about this. I have this vision. I have this idea. I want it to be something that evolves. And I also showed her the picture of, on the internet, the Never Give Up, the frog that's like choking the bird that's trying to eat it. But I'm like, I don't want it to be that, but I want it to kind of have that feel. And like, I'm describing all these things to her, and she just beautifully sketched this out, colored it, and I bought the trademark from it. And now I have it on these stickers. So I have Misfit Hose Dragger stickers. You get a sticker, a link, little card with all the story of how the link came about, what all the numbers and everything means. And, you know, I love seeing people put them on their gear, I love seeing it on people's tennis shoes, their gym shoes, their key ring. They're like, hey, I have a radio strap. I've always got it with me. It's close to my heart. It reminds me that I don't want to be the weak link. I love stories like that when people send me it, because it's like, yes, you're embodying exactly what this is supposed to be.
Yeah. You know, so there's something I really want to highlight here, because I know some of my listeners that listen to this all the time, and being in this on a few different levels, right? Not just being a fire chief or a firefighter, but being involved on the instructor level as well. at so many times seen that person come in like yourself, you know, that is the weakest link or appears to be the weakest link, that doesn't make that mindset shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that mindset shift, or making that decision to commit yourself to something, is huge in the entire journey, right? And you've said that a couple of times throughout this conversation. You know, you wouldn't be where you were today if you didn't have that conversation with yourself and make a decision to essentially achieve your goals, right?
Right.
Regardless of how quickly they are, or how quick they happen.
I completely agree with you, and I completely, you know, I'm going to kind of track back to what you said. The first thing there is some personal accountability. Like, people have to want to make the change. But my challenge to you is, how are you then, as an instructor, a chief, a leader?
Right.
What are you doing to help inspire those people to make that change?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you're the leader. You're the one that people are looking towards.
Yep.
So we can say accountability. I love that. I believe in that. I embrace that. But what, as a leader, can you do to facilitate that?
Right.
It's a rhetorical question, just something that I want instructors to always think about. Because
and you have to meet in the middle.
Yes, and I'm sure a lot had bet against me. I'm sure that first fire chief bet against me, and you know what? Hey, it only made me better.
Right.
It only made me better.
One thing that I've always said is, I personally won't give up on somebody as long as they're willing to not give up on themselves. You know, like,
right.
I'll take as much time as I have to work with somebody and try to develop and help them along the way in this journey, as long as they're willing to put in as much work like you have to take those steps towards being better. If every challenge is answered by, I can't do this, right? Two of my least favorite words, right, in the English language. I can't, you know, and that's difficult. And you're 100% right. You can't. It takes a little bit from both sides. It takes a lot from both sides, not a little bit.
Right.
You know.
And you know, the tagline on the Misfit Hose Dragger stickers is overcome, adapt. Yes. So when you're met with, I can't do this, find a way.
Exactly.
There's not. I don't have a plan B. You know what I mean? We all have different starting lines, and I think being sensitive to that is something that just everyone in general can work on. You know, being gentle with people, as far as, you know, not everybody has the same starting line.
Sure, absolutely.
So being cognizant of that and praising the milestones that you don't really think are milestones. And I know people will be like, "Oh, you shouldn't get a participation trophy." I completely agree with that. But praise and feeling like you're accomplishing something and being validated for your efforts,
right? Regardless
if you're making this huge transformation or change, just like you might not show on you, but look at you putting in the time. You want to feel validated in that, and that keeps you going.
Yeah, for sure.
So I hope that as a profession, we can keep moving towards that, you know, praising people when they are doing good. I feel like we're almost like a negative feedback loop. Like, I know that I've done okay when I haven't been yelled at. You know, like, but like, I haven't been hollered at today, so I must have done something right. As opposed to, hey, you know, thanks for doing this, or I appreciate this, or, you know, you worked really hard at this. I would love to see us move and that's not even department wide. That's just our culture. Like, you know, we don't give attaboys, you know, for the things that you're supposed to do, but especially in the volunteer side, people need to feel appreciated. You need to appreciate your members.
You just hit the nail on the head. That's exactly, you literally took the words out of my mouth. I've said that countless times on this podcast when we're talking about leadership and organization and culture and agencies. If you are not giving, especially on the volunteer side, right? These people are not getting any compensation at all for doing what they do. If you are not at least giving them a thank you, you are failing.
Right.
You know, if they come out at 2:00 in the morning for a bullshit activated fire alarm and you don't say, hey guys, thanks for coming out before you leave the station, you're failing. Because
Right.
whether you think they're listening to you or not, you know, I know some guys are like, oh, I thank them all the time and they don't even hear me. No, they hear you. Just because they're not like praising you with your welcomes, they absolutely hear you, you know, and when
Right.
you stop doing it, they're going to notice. So,
Right.
yeah,
I agree.
yeah, that's gold. You hit the nail on the head right there. All right, so let's continue. Let's continue talking about the 451 link and how you use basically your journey, your mindset, that your where you've gone, and all the things that you've done to continue to manage all this craziness and all these projects that you have going on in your life.
So yes, I developed a process, which is it's not an original idea, so I don't want to masquerade it as this is my own thought. And no, these in corporate instances, we share best practices. That's a something. If you found something that works, talk about it, and make everybody else better is basically like the mindset, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea in the corporate world of project management is, you know, a systematic way of going about things. It's never luck. Okay. And there's a process called DMAC, which is its own animal, but I transferred, you know, kind of manipulated that to meet my own needs in the form of DMAC. So DMAC is the acronym that I use, and this is what I apply to literally, I say projects, but when you think about it, literally everything you do with a goal or an objective is a project, right?
Correct.
And now some of those projects don't need to be managed. You know, you've got to make breakfast this morning, whatever. That's just a task. But the idea of nutrition and healthy food is a project, right? So
Mm-hmm.
breakfast is a task. You know, nutritional eating plan is the project, right? So I digress a little bit on that. But DMAC is what I've applied, and it came from the corporate world. And I'm trying to kind of, you know, weave it into, I weave it into pretty much everything I do. But D is define. So define the project, define your goal, basically, you know, your end result, what you want. So define. If we're applying it to weight loss, and now I want to be clear that it can apply to literally anything, but I'm going to use weight loss because that's what people are familiar with seeing me do it with.
Sure.
So define. I want to lose weight. Okay, great. That's not good, but that's not a good enough D for DMAC. How much weight do you want to lose? Be as specific as possible. I want to lose 20 pounds. Good. Now we have a measurable goal, which is M, measure. Mm-hmm. You need to be able to say, okay, I want to lose 20 pounds. That's the D, define. Where am I at now? Where am I at today? Weigh yourself. Where are you at? Okay, so you're 240. All right, you want to be at 220. Now, the other metric of that is going to be a timeline, right? So I want to be at, it can't just be like, oh, I want to be at 220. Well, you might be that in 5 years, but if you're trying to do this systematically, you know, I want to be at 220 by the end of September, right? So now we have our timeline. Awesome. So that fits in our metrics. That's M, measure. We need metrics. Mm-hmm. So what metrics are going to filter into that is the A part of that, which is analyze. So analyzing the metrics, what's going into that? Well, there's essentially two things, right? Activity level and nutrition. Yep. So now we have to develop metrics for that. You know, if your activity level is nothing today, well, in order for you to lose that 20 pounds to get to your end goal, you're going to have to increase that. So let's throw something down. Let's start it with 20 minutes of activity a day. All right. Awesome. If that works, great. We'll analyze it in a week. Are you going down? Are you going towards your goal or not? Then you can change it, right? Go back to the metrics. Just what you got to keep metrics. And then, you know, the other factor into that is nutrition. So, all right, this is the awareness thing, that the first thing I tell people when they say they want to lose weight, start tracking what you're eating. I don't even tell them you have to change anything. No, track what you're eating exactly for a week. That awareness thing is huge. So if all of a sudden you realize that, hey, I'm consuming 3,500 calories a day, it's not conducive to my weight loss goal,
Right.
So now I got to be accountable to a calorie metric or a macros metric. I'm not being specific. I'm I'm not a nutritionist, whatever it is that you determine as, I want to be clear because I don't want people to be like, you don't know what you're talking about because, I really don't. This is just what worked for me.
Whatever is working for you is a fair enough general statement. Whatever they decide to do. The
last thing is C, continuously improve, which is the concept of the 451-degree link to be better than you were yesterday, right? So that continuous improvement mindset, my challenge is that people interweave that into just about everything, because we can be better. I can be a better parent. I can be a better spouse. I can be a better community member. I can be better spiritually with myself and better to myself, eating wise, better crew member, better with my career, anything, better intellectually. So that whole continuous improvement mindset, I don't think you're going wrong when you kind of develop that mindset shift, right?
Sure.
And that's really what kind of changed me.
That's awesome. No, that's a great way to look at it. It's different than anything I've really ever heard, or different. How should I say it? It's not different. I mean, I've heard similar things before,
right.
But I like the way it's laid out, and
anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. Right. Exactly.
This is not rocket science. We are not building rocket ships here. No. This is a very, very, very simple thing. You don't need any kind of, I'm not trying to sell you an app. I'm not trying to sell you a computer program. I have no products. I don't endorse any, everybody asks, the big thing is, well, how did you do it? And people want a quick answer. They want me to tell them, if you just buy this thing that I'm selling you and being compensated for, you'll get better. Well, that's exactly what's wrong with the fitness industry. Okay. Because that's not what works. All right. And I had to find that out the hard way because I tried weight loss. Like I said, I was big all my life. So, and I mean, this wasn't the first idea I had to get healthy weight. So I have tried probably everything that doesn't work. Sure. And I can tell, and that's why I don't endorse a specific product right now. There's certain brands that I really like, fitness workout wise, as far as just cause I like how it looks on me. That's about, but it's not going to get you your earbuds and the cool shoes. They're not going to do it for you. Okay. The protein shake that they want to sell you and get their 20% commission for. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Whatever. Hey, I am loyal to sales. I'm not loyal to any brands. When people have good deals, I appreciate those people that pass them along to me, but that is not what's doing it. So I caution people when they ask me, they don't like my first thing I say is, you're not going to like the answer because it's hard work, but all the time.
But that is the honest answer that people need to hear. And for a few years, I was involved. I was immersed in that whole world of fitness and all that stuff. And the most frustrating part of it is everybody is looking for the quick, easy fix.
Yes.
Sure, I can sell you a shake. I can sell you a fitness program. I can sell you supplements, and I can make, like you said, 20% on selling you that stuff. But if you're not willing to prep your food, plan your meals, actually work out every day, or however,
commit to the doing it, whether you don't, whether or not you don't want to
commit to the physical aspects of it.
Right.
None of that stuff matters. There is no magic potion out there. If there was, there probably would not be anybody that was overweight and struggling, right? If you could just drink something and miraculously, get there. So.
And again, I don't want to put down or belittle the people that are doing that, because there are, I utilize protein, pre-workout and things like that. Sure. But what I'm getting at is it really doesn't matter the brand. The supplement is just that. It is a supplement to the work that you're putting in. It is not a replacement.
Right.
It does not take the place of. And I think that's the big disconnect. And I don't want to falsely elude anyone. That's why I don't represent any one brand, because I don't want somebody to look at my transformation and be like, oh, if I just buy XYZ product, I can have that, because that's not true. It doesn't exist.
No.
It's not out there. Give it up. Save your money.
Anything that you're going to do requires some form of commitment on, it doesn't matter what it is, right? If you're, if you're going to do Weight Watchers, right? But you decide that you're going to eat 15 Weight Watchers meals a day instead of the prescribed 3 or whatever it is, you're not going to achieve your goal, so it doesn't matter.
And there are excellent, like the things with Weight Watchers, and I never used a specific program. It was more just, it was DMAC essentially.
Yeah.
And like tracking. I used MyFitnessPal, which is a free app.
Sure.
Just, that awareness is huge. I remember like the big pivotal thing for me was, I remember I'd been tracking my calories, and, MyFitnessPal will calculate what you should be utilizing, what you should have for weight loss.
Yeah.
And I'd been doing really good for like 3 solid months. I had probably lost, maybe 10 pounds in those 3 months. So healthy, like my weight came off healthily. It wasn't like I had this, at first it was quick because I started eating right and weight dropped off quickly, but it was a slow process. Very, this transformation didn't happen overnight.
Right.
That's the other thing I caution people. This takes time, and we live in that like instant gratification society.
Absolutely.
We don't even have to wait for commercials anymore. So you think people want to wait 4 or 5 years for their new body to come? No, they don't.
Right.
But anyways, 2 months in, 2 or 3 months in, had lost maybe 10 pounds, and I was traveling. I was picking up my daughter somewhere, and there was Dairy Queen is a big ice cream thing in our area. And I wanted to see, I wanted a cookie dough blizzard so bad. My Achilles heel is still sweets. Oh my goodness. Love sweets. I love ice cream. I wanted a cookie dough blizzard. I put it into my tracker preemptively to see how far back it would set me. Right. Well, it turned out for a medium, it was all of my calorie intake for that day. And I realized it was like that pivotal moment of like, I'm not going to get a cookie dough blizzard today. I mean, that doesn't mean I never had one ever again. But I had this goal of this is what I'm working towards. And it was like, this is going to be counterproductive.
Sure. Absolutely.
I'm not saying don't live your life, because then people are like, well, don't you ever live? I do, but I don't. The whole idea behind that is my mindset according to food isn't like, I need pleasure from my food anymore. I need that to fulfill me. Food is for nutrition. It's a tool. I'm everything I'm thinking, that goes into my body, I'm using for a reason. It doesn't mean I never have dessert, but I'm working towards a goal. So right now I'm, not going to do that. That's where you got to draw the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this was awesome. Brooke,
well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I thank you so much for coming on. I know we've been talking about this for a little while.
Yeah.
Doing an episode, and just keep doing great things. I can't. If you're listening if this is the first time you're listening to Brooke speak and you're listening to her story, we hit a lot in the last hour. So I would definitely suggest that you go out and find some of those other podcasts where she dives deeper into the transformation story. We hit on just about everything today in little pieces, which was great. But listen, I thank you for doing what you're doing and inspiring me when I need a little pickup here.
Wonderful.
And please just let everybody know where they can find you again, your social feeds, and go ahead.
Absolutely. I don't really do the Facebook thing, but I can be found on Instagram at Miss_Fit_Hose-Dragger. You're welcome to DM me and request a 451F link. I'd be happy to send it out. Yes, you've got one right there. Put it on your gear, put it somewhere, shoot me a picture, and I will post it to my secondary account, which I'm retroactively uploading where all the links are on that page, which is 451F_the link. I want to make sure that I end with, like, nothing makes me happier than when I see people happy and achieving. So if anybody takes anything away from this, it's to be good to yourself. you're valuable, you deserve it, you deserve to make a change, whether it's you want to get healthier, or you want to go up the corporate ladder, or you want to be a better father, mother, child, community member. I love seeing people that are out there just being better than they were yesterday. So if there's anything I can ever do to help any listeners, conversations are something I live for, especially in our socially distanced time. Absolutely reach out. I'm happy to give my perspective, but again, I'm no expert. I'm a regular person that I feel like I tried everything that didn't work and then found something that did. So I'd be happy to share it. So.
And hopefully whenever we come out of what is turned into what has turned into normal, I know you started doing some public speaking just before this all out. So hopefully once life returns to normal for everybody and we can freely travel and go to conferences and commingle.
I hope that's a thing. I hope that my anti-motivational speech will become a thing for audiences once again. So
absolutely.
Hopefully. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming on. Once again, I totally appreciate it. So stay healthy and stay safe. All right.
All right.